Let's sit here for the afternoon, see how it goes. My last joint, so I don't want to smoke it too much. Smoke it off, smoke it to the left, smoke it to the right. Smoke it till we're tight. This would be like a family, like things that people like to be tight. Socks, underwear, ropes when they're mountain climbing, your belt, someone else's vagina, or asshole, or mouth, or just the use of the hand and mouth in a cupping and sucking action. In other words, your grips should be tight. When you're always getting a good grip. When someone says get a grip, get it together, right? Let's make sure we can get her, get her, together. What does it mean together? What are you gathering? Gathering this and gathering that, gathering every day. We're taking her flesh and we're making it good. Gathering every day. I've always attracted little bits of knowledge. And then through different phases of my life, intensely, starting in my 20s, definitely intensely, starting to experience intense violence from the world around me. So now, fairly typical story. You drop out of school, you drop out of college, you don't really get like good jobs or anything, and now you feel like people are attacking you. That sounds like a psychiatric condition, right? I would get rid of my friends. And no one asked me why. It's because when I told them about what was the most difficult part of my life, they would ignore me. And so, when you're sick or bereaved or abused, you kind of find out who your real friends are. And it's maybe not fair to them, but if you're really in a tight spot and people don't have your six, because if nothing else, they're kind of living in a tight spot, then some people draw closer, some people draw farther apart. I never regretted a single decision to let friendships go. I never regret it in my life. I don't regret not knowing anyone from my past. The people that don't make it to your future probably shouldn't. That's one to live by. People that don't make it to your future probably shouldn't. Accepting the ones, who have awful things happen to them or die. Like, I don't wish that on anybody, but I don't like being in pain. And the world around me has taken me through different periods of my life where it gives me pain to talk about the pain that people give me. My memoir on a day like today could be the pain people give me. Usually when my nerves are acting up like this, I'm usually more angry, more outspoken, but it's kind of taken the life out of me now. I just don't have anything left. I hope this is the last of it. I just have nothing to vomit out of my system anymore. You ever have things like rattle your nerves? Well, my nerves get rattled. It took a predator who could see me for about 30 seconds yesterday from about 300 feet away to rattle my nerves. And if I told you more of the story, it would probably sound more disturbing, but it wouldn't be useful to you. Cathartic to me, but like nobody needs to know kind of thing. It's too much for the human brain. To hear a lot of people's shock and trauma or relationships between human dynamics and how they feel, to be fair, even though we should all be able to tell everybody how bad the world is to us, and we would all like, oh yeah, we understand, like, hey man, good for you. You really, I don't want to be facetious or strange, like it needs to be presented in an almost academic environment. people need to be prepared, before hearing your shock, because whether it's with police or family or strangers or anyone, to hear, especially if there's a pattern, you know, or you find yourself inclined to cross paths with people who have shocking issues and sometimes become shockingly bothersome to you, and how these are all kinds of people, but you prefer to tell yourself, like, they all kind of told you in a way that you should watch out. A stranger, just by being a stranger, should be saying in some sense, hey, maybe you shouldn't trust me. I'm a stranger. So if you do trust the wrong people, it's always a little bit your fault. You decided to trust a stranger. And not everyone who's going to hurt you intends to. Like, it's caveat emptor. So to talk about, you could talk about, I mean, most people have some opinion of human beings. Maybe they say, this is what I think about these people, this is what I think about humans. And maybe they have a way of talking about humans that they like or that they've learned, or, oh, humans are basically nice. And they have Maslow's hierarchy. Everyone needs to be recognized and have a voice, and everyone can just live peacefully if everyone is just honest and is willing to do their part and be responsible and stand up and play the proper role. Emphasis on the role, right? Shock, and what people might have to say who are shocked by patterns of human dynamics, their voices and knowledge contained in their voices has to be presented in the right way. If you want people who don't have trauma or talk about trauma or talk away to want to be able to understand what people like me or you are saying. Everyone in the Western world knows, oh, there's divorce and there's child abuse and codependent addiction. Okay, we all got that down, and it's all part of the fun of figuring out this crazy world, and everyone's responsible for themselves. But there's a period in your life. It's not really as set as you think. It could be 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 years, 6 year, maybe 12, 13 good years where you're not responsible for yourself. And so you've got time to kind of, like, other people are responsible for how you behave, and they hold you responsible for your behavior, but you have a lot of leeway. No one's going to put a 10-year-old in jail for saying the F word. Okay? Like, hey, okay, great, the F word, good for you. Right? And then, in the Western world, there's something like another season. There's the season of youth, and then there's the season of age, or of not being a child anymore. Okay? Now, between one and the other, okay, and the passage and the conditions and what you think or I think about your own mind or your own sensibilities, your own feelings and thoughts about your life and your body and everything going on around you, right, has a wide range of factors, meaning and thoughts and recollections, or things you forget maybe, and things that come into the brain, the behavior and the sexuality and the personality and everything else. Okay, and maybe they should. I mean, you should absorb the world around you. You're a robot, right? How else are you going to learn if you don't feel things out for yourself? And a grammar or syntax that is helpful and needs to be a part of, or will be a part of. And in being part of it, it draws from something which is sacrosanct, more or less, to everyone in their own private way, when it comes to describing any kind of violence in the world. And so you might say, where there is any kind of violence, let's say in some dimension of the past, present, or future. We have an absolute infinite range of understanding of everything that violence is and everywhere. And any way we're going to talk about it, we're going to be using a lot of the important types of often very private and sacred ways that we've learned to navigate from childhood to adulthood. We've been forced to think about, what's happening and how we explain it to ourselves, how others explain it to us, and what, if any, voice we have, and whether it's safe to use it in the entire process, which may or may not involve what we give as consent, but things are different kind of from a child-parent perspective than from someone who's an adult. So maybe children can't have consent. Just like children can't have sex, they can't consent to school, they can't consent to how they become an adult. Nor are they held responsible for choosing everything perfectly in that way. They need guidance, right? This is standard Western philosophy. And not philosophy like it's in a book, but basically how people do things. It's just thoughts of things. But violence, in the total realm of all that violence truly is, in the my type know exactly what it is. Any violence you feel has happened to you or me would have to be included. And talking about it or relating useful knowledge or painful experience, we would be drawing from a vernacular that basically has to be formed between 0, 5, 12, 20, and 30 years of age. There's all kinds of things to say about different impressions that are made on very different states of our mind and of ourselves, and of our bodies, and of our relationships to society and other people, and what, if anything, is expected from us, and whether or not you think I had everything I needed or you had everything you needed. Some people don't get what they need, so if you grow up where your father in front of you, and there's crackheads and hoes and just the worst environment. Not that, that's just one example. Every race, every species has theirs. Are you expected to be as responsible an adult who has everything? Is that fair to ask someone who grows up in a war zone to behave as well or as succinctly as someone who grows up in the most wonderful neighborhood on earth? How do you answer that? If someone who grows up in a house with alcoholism or abuse, are they supposed to have as happy a life as you do? Do you expect that they're going to have some problems?